Hello and welcome. I'm Kayla Alawi, Atmosphere Press's Book Publicity and Events Manager. Thank you so much for joining us for the first panel, or excuse me, the second panel of our 2025 Writers Summit. The Atmosphere Press Writers Summit is a completely free, entirely virtual 2-day writers conference where you will have the opportunity to connect with fellow writers who are serious about their publishing goals. Whether you're preparing your manuscript, exploring your publishing options, or figuring out how to promote your book once it's out in the world, this summit features 8 digestible sessions that will give you real, practical insights from industry experts. In these sessions, we're going to be hearing from published Atmosphere Press authors, learning about book coaching and marketing strategies, and discovering how Atmosphere Press can support you at every stage of the process. In this panel, we're going to be talking specifically about how to pick a publisher to work with that will be your advocate with our guest, Gabi Coatsworth. Knowing what kind of publishing model you want to utilize is one thing, but actually picking the right publisher is another, even when you already know the model you want to work with. So Gabi is going to walk us through how to ensure you're entering into a relationship that will feed your creativity and support your work. You'll also have the opportunity for Gabi to answer your questions during the Q&A portion of the event. So at any time, please check out the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to send in your questions. You can also check the Answered tab to see answers to questions that have already been posed. Just for attendees of this panel, we'll also be having giveaways for 3 attendees. One for a free copy of Gabi's book, A Beginner's Guide to Starting Over, plus a personalized goodies bundle from Gabi herself. One for a second free copy of A Beginner's Guide to Starting Over, and the third for an Atmosphere Press merch bundle. The winners are going to be selected at random, and I'll announce them at the end of Gabi's panel. And one more thing before we get into our talk. This panel is brought to you by Winning Writers and the North Street Book Prize. Based in Massachusetts, Winning Writers is a resource for poets and writers full of advice on crafting your manuscript, navigating the publishing industry, perfecting your craft, and even a number of tools for educators. Winning Writers also operates over 200 of the finest poetry and prose contests, many of which have no entry fees because they're committed to spotlighting excellent literature. Submissions for Winning Writers North Street Book Prize are now open until July 1st. The North Street Book Prize is in its 11th year and is open to self-published and hybrid published books. Up to $10,000 is available in prize money, plus expert marketing services. Atmosphere Press is a co-sponsor of the North Street Book Prize, and last year, Atmosphere author Daniel Victor won the grand prize. So we are especially proud to work with Winning Writers to bring you this panel. You can learn more about Winning Writers and the North Street Book Prize from the links that I'm going to add to the chat right now. And with that, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest speaker. Gabi Coatsworth is a British-born author, speaker, and blogger who has spent half her life living in the United States. She's published by Atmosphere Press, and her award-winning debut novel, A Beginner's Guide to Starting Over, has readers loving the friendly ghost featured in it. The sequel, A Field Guide to Library Ghosts, is due this fall and has a supernatural element too, the ghost insisted. Her memoir, Love's Journey Home, came out in 2022 and has also won several awards. If Gabi's not writing or traveling, she'll be in her flower garden wondering whether to read or relaxing with a book. With that, Gabi, I'm excited to invite you to give your presentation.
Thank you, Hala, for that wonderful introduction that my mother would have loved and believed. Yes, I'm delighted to be here today because for me, Atmosphere was the end of quite a long road. So I'll just start by running through how I tried to get published. My first thought was, Penguin Random House or somebody else, one of the big publishers would love my book and they're going to just be crying out to publish it. And I actually found an agent for this book. She loved the book. And she found a publisher that was quite interested in the book, but they just wanted a little rewrite. Could I just tweak this, add a little more bookshop, do something? So I rewrote all that. By the time I'd done it, the woman who'd asked for it had moved to another publisher and she was only doing cozy mysteries. So when my agent said, could you rewrite this as a cozy mystery? I sort of went, no, I really don't think so. And I knew by that time that if my book had been accepted, if my book was anybody, yours books, accepted today by a big publisher, it would come out sometime in 2027. It takes a very long time to get a book published by one of the big publishers. And that's one reason that I went to Plan B. So Plan B was, I'll find a small traditional publisher. They're pretty much the same as the big guys. They do all the work for you. They keep quite a lot of the money. And so I sent the book out to a couple of those publishers with the query letter and so on and so forth. But I didn't hear back from some of them. I didn't get, I got one refusal that was, and I had one that said, this is the best thing I've read all year, but I can't publish any more books until 2026 or something. So I moved to Plan C, and Plan C was hybrid publishers or self-publishing. So I suppose I could have self-published my books, but it would have meant learning a lot about how to do that, and not just how to do the publishing part, not just uploading it to, for example, Amazon, but uploading it to more places than Amazon, everywhere on the internet, and finding someone to design the cover and finding someone to edit it and proofread it and design the inside, somewhere to distribute it. There's a lot that goes into publishing a book. And so I came up with I thought, I haven't been on a vacation for a few years because it was the pandemic. And I thought, I have not spent any money on vacation. So I'm going to see what I can find in the way of publishers who can do this for me. And I had a couple of friends who were published by a very large hybrid publisher that publishes only women. And they produce a very nice book and they do a pretty good job. It's a longer process with them than it is with some other publishers, but it cost way too much money for my budget. So I looked at all the others and I ended up with a list of about 6, and I started comparing notes. So some of the questions I asked myself were not just the price. I wanted to know whether I'd get good value for money. That was really more important. So I thought, sorry, I bought a copy, one book from each of the publishers, because I wanted to see what kind of quality the end product would be. And I was surprised, even quite shocked, to find out how much the quality varied. Some of them used paper that was practically see-through so that, you could see the following page coming through on the first page. Some of them had covers that bled slightly, or that were slightly off. They hadn't been printed straight. And I just thought, and then some of them were, you'd read 2 or 3 pages and they'd be full of typos and other things that any good proofreader should have caught. So I discarded those immediately, and that got rid of at least half of my list. And then I looked at what was I going to get for the money? And some publishers were much clearer than others. Atmosphere is extremely clear in what you get for the money, what it costs, whether you need to have all of it, how much it's going to cost you, and how much you will get in royalties, and so on. To that end, they publish the contract that they give to writers that they accept online. So you can see it before you even submit a book. You can decide whether this is a deal that will work for you. And if you want to, this is a tip for any contract you might ever want to sign, you can go to the Authors Guild. You can join the Authors Guild for about $150, and they will look over any contract without a charge. And I had them look over the contract when I signed with Atmosphere to publish the memoir. And so they looked over it, they couldn't find anything wrong with it, which was a good sign. So I liked that fact that it was straight up and honest. I had to look around other websites to kind of put it together. Um, so clarity was a great plus. And having gone through this, I applied to three three hybrid publishers. And I got responses from Atmosphere and one other publisher the same day or the same week. And so now I had a real comparison to make between Atmosphere and another live offer. One thing I should say was that neither of these companies, and they're both very good, accept every book that they're sent. If you're not ready for prime time, Atmosphere will gently let you know that perhaps you're not ready for prime time and maybe even suggest some ways that you can go to get there. But on the whole, as you can see, if you've read any of their authors, these are good books, beautifully produced, and they should have been published by somebody. It's just that there are a lot of books out there. So the two offers, I compared them, and Atmosphere just came out way ahead in terms of the services they provided. And the thing, after I'd signed the contract, the thing that I liked the most, and which has kept me coming back to Atmosphere, is the fact that the communication with the people that are working on your book, you can find a person at Atmosphere who's in charge of some part of your book. I know the guy who does the covers now. I know him pretty well because when he did the cover for the Love's Journey Home, the memoir, part of the book took place in New Hampshire. And so the artist they used was not American, and he obviously had looked up New Hampshire. And so one of the many covers, they came up with a bunch of covers, had a picture of a moose swimming across the lake, which wasn't exactly what I was going for in the book, but it was only one of many covers that they showed me. And I was able to say, look, this doesn't work for me, but I love the thing you've done here, and I love this part. Do you think you could merge them? Could you change it? If I'd been with a traditional publisher, they would have said, you have no say in this cover. We hope you like it, but we're going with it this way. In fact, they sometimes even change your titles. You don't have any control with traditional publishers. And having tasted the power of being sort of in charge of my own book through Atmosphere, I'm just not willing to give that up to anybody else because, for example, they were doing the inside for my novel. And let me show you. I had seen some, fancy big publisher books, and they had this nice little designs. This is a book because this takes place in a bookstore at the top of the chapter headings. And I said, do you think I could have a little book at the top of the chapter headings? Certainly. A regular publisher would have said, that's not up to you. We're doing it this way. So I think that kind of cooperation, that kind of willingness, I could say, look, do you think we could do a giveaway on Goodreads? And they'd say, sure, this is how we can do that. Or I could come up with some other thing. I'd like to do a promotional price on Amazon, for example, like the Kindle version for 99 cents. Can you organize that for me? No problem. These are the kinds of things that I would have no say over at all with a big publisher. And one thing I will say about the big publishers is, not many people know this, but 96% of all the books they publish every year sell fewer than 2,000 copies. It's staggering. They make all their money really on the top 4%, which sell, the best sellers, which they really push the boat out. They do all the work. They send you on the road trips and all of that. But you can do just as well with a small publisher and get a more personalized kind of service, I think. There's always someone to ask at Atmosphere, which is something that I really love. And they also have a lot of marketing services that you can buy. They'll tell you what they are, they tell you what they do. And those are in a separate price point, but that's up to you. One thing I would suggest too, to be completely impartial, and one thing that I did do was I went to ALI, the Alliance of Independent Authors. I'm going to, can I put a link in the chat? There we go. So
Yes, go right
Ali
ahead.
has it rates publishers. It also rates contests, by the way. And speaking of contests, their highest rated contests, their highly recommended ones, are the ones produced by winning writers. So you've got a great sponsor. Anyway, you can go to this website and look for any of the publishers that you're interested in, and there are tons of them there, but they will let you know which ones they recommend, which ones they've had complaints about, and so on, so that you can make a decision based on that. And Atmosphere, of course, comes up very well on that. I think they update these things all the time. So that's another great and completely impartial way to check for a publisher. What else can I tell you? Hala, do we have any suggestions for things that I could help with?
Um, do you mean like from the Q&A?
From the Q&A, or whether you've got a question that I can answer.
Well, we definitely have some questions coming in from the Q&A, so we can jump into those for sure.
Okay,
Um,
let's do that.
yeah, so this question that has first come in, what are some things I should avoid when I'm considering what publisher to work with?
I would, let me think what to avoid. I would avoid any that make it sound too easy. It's not that Atmosphere Press is difficult, but you know exactly what you're going to get with Atmosphere. If a publisher says, just give us your book and we'll produce it for you, they're not really a hybrid publisher. What they are is they're what we used to call a vanity press, and they will accept everything. They won't really care whether you've got a few typos in it or a lot of typos in it. They won't, they'll do what you ask. They'll make it look lovely, I'm sure, and they won't distribute it. They'll tell you, you know, you have to buy 10,000 copies of this book. This is another thing that Atmosphere doesn't do, and I think it's a great plus. Traditional publishers do a print run, and when they do a print run, they have to store it, and somebody has to pay for the storage. It's usually the big publisher, which is why occasionally in bookstores you will see what they used to call remaindered books, and now they're just books at a discount because they haven't sold. Atmosphere doesn't do that. Like many publishers, small publishers also, they run their system on a print on demand basis, which means there is no storage. I can order 50 books from them because I'm going to be going to a book fair or something like that, and I'll get my 50 books. Bookstores can order them. This is something else to know. A bookstore probably won't stock your book because there are gazillions of books that they don't stock. They just don't have room. There are, I don't know what, 2 million books published a year. So, but anybody can walk into any bookstore and order my book and they'll get it. Same is true of libraries. So the distribution that I get through Atmosphere is wide. You can find me in on the Barnes and Noble online, bookshop.org, all kinds of ebook places. So that's another thing. If your publisher that you're looking at is not offering you distribution, is saying we will upload it to Amazon, and that's all you're going to get, you may think, oh, well, yeah, Amazon's big, but there are a lot of people who don't particularly care to buy from Amazon and might want to buy it somewhere else. So with Atmosphere, you get that. So avoid people that make it sound too simple and avoid people that won't distribute it everywhere.
Right. You don't want a deal that sounds too good necessarily, which,
Yeah.
kind of applies in a lot of situations, this one included. Kind of on the flip side, this question is, what are you looking for in a super solid publication contract?
I'm looking for transparency. I'm looking for language that I can understand, that isn't complicated, that tells me what I'm going to get, what they expect me to do, what my job is, what their job is, what I pay them, and what I will earn from the books that I sell. And that's very clear on the Amazon website. Can you put a link up for the contract page, Hala?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that'll make people see exactly what it is that you're getting. And there are, I think if you look at Jane Friedman's Paths to Publication, she lists some of these things. And over the years, a few years ago, she would have put hybrid publishing as one of those, well, if you must, now it's become quite mainstream and it's no longer considered like I'm just some old British colonel writing my memoirs and I want 10 copies for my kids. It's not like that anymore. So, and Atmosphere certainly isn't. Atmosphere is a powerhouse these days.
Yes, thank you for that kind of comparison there. We have another question that's come in. This person says, Dear Gabby, how do you find the strength to follow your editor's advice when they cut, edit, or change the text a lot? How do you stay yourself, but also accept the point of view of the editorial staff?
Excuse me, I'm just reaching for. Okay, so I sent in my latest novel, which is coming out in the fall. And I thought, yeah, it's pretty good shape. But they have some fabulous editors at Atmosphere. And by the way, not everybody does editing. Some people will say, oh, we'd love this book, but we need you to pay for editing before we'll even take another look at it. And that's what they do. With Atmosphere, your editing is included. So here I was thinking it was in good shape. What I got back was 2.5 pages of single-spaced suggestions and notes from my lovely editor, Megan. And I first looked at it and I went, no, come on, Megan, this isn't, really, do I have to do this? And, but my suggestion, if you ever get edits from anybody, is leave them for at least 24 hours, longer if you feel like it, and then go back and take another look at them. And Megan had come up with some really good ideas. What the purpose of an editor in my book is that, unlike my friends and my writing partners and my family, they have no idea what I'm trying to say in a book. So they're looking at it like a real reader, someone that I hope will be the end reader of the thing. And they're going to sort of go, well, what did you mean here? Did you mean this? Or how come this character's got blue eyes up here and they've gone green in chapter 27? This kind of thing. But yes, so I never reject out of hand an editor's comments. However, if I feel really strongly about something or that they have misunderstood, I'll reject that change, but I'll say to myself, okay, is there a better way I could do this to make it clearer? And that's what I do. Atmosphere is very good, and this is something they've increased their ability to do, I think, because over the years, and this is my third book, I've had more and better editing than I got with my first one, which, truth be told, had been already professionally edited, so was in good shape. But yeah, so don't panic. Just don't panic when you get your first editorial comments or changes. And also what I did with this one, I said, really, she doesn't seem to get this, or whatever it was. How does this ghost function? She's going, I don't get how. So I gave this letter to a writing friend, and I said, surely it's pretty clear, isn't it? She went, well, actually, yeah, you could just, I think she's pretty on the mark here. So get a second opinion from someone that does know you and love you and, will encourage you. And if they say it needs changing, change it.
Yeah, I know it can really be difficult to navigate that path of keeping things and not keeping things or suggestions, but just like any form of art, it's this back and forth conversation.
Yeah, I will say one other thing. If you've got a book, a novel particularly, and it gets too complex in some pages or in some places, or it's too long, or there's a plot line that doesn't seem to be going anywhere and they suggest you don't need it. I've been known to take that plot line out and write it into a short story that I can use to send out to people who'd like to sign up for my email list, for example. And so it's not lost. You don't have to lose it forever. You can just cut it and put it somewhere else for later.
Yes, absolutely. This next question also is, I'm really interested to hear this because I know a lot of first-time writers struggle with this. Hi, Gabby. Can we get your insights into how much self-belief an author needs in their book when they're publishing for the first time and how to muster that up?
Oh, yeah. I know I sound like a really confident person, and on the whole, I am. But boy, those dark nights of the soul when you're like, nobody is ever going to read this. Like, nobody. I mean, what was I thinking? Well, the short answer is every author I've ever spoken to, and I know quite a few best-selling authors by now, all of them have these feelings from time to time, the feeling that they're an imposter. One thing I will say about Atmosphere, and no doubt other publishers too, is that when you're feeling like that, they will say, no, no, look, we wouldn't have taken this book if we didn't think it was a good book. Um, I think it's something that passes, and I think you just have to go through it. You can talk to yourself all you want, and talking to yourself isn't entirely bad. You can do the old thing of writing out 50 times, I am a good author and this book is a good book. I am a good author and this book is a good book. Whatever it takes to change that mindset. But if that's not the way you can do it, I think just leaving your book alone for a while until you get over that feeling. When you go back to it, something I've discovered every single time I've done this is when I go back to it, I go, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. This isn't half bad. There's some quite good writing in here. So it's worth going back to your old writing as well. And you'll see that although you've developed as a writer, your old writing has still got good stuff in it. So yeah, I would say do that whenever you feel insecure and just keep going. If you have a writing friend, tell them, and they will say, "Oh my God, it happened to me too." You know, find a friend you can who can commiserate with you. That helps as well. But I'm telling you, it happens to everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it really helps for artists to hear that and to know they're not alone in that feeling. Um, it's really such a universal experience, if difficult, but always great to be able to talk about the book that you're excited to promote. This next question, you talk about belief in your book. How about the author believing in yourself?
So yes, it took a long time for me to believe in myself, and the way I eventually did was when I started writing. Started writing short stories, and then I thought, and I got a couple of them published, which was great. And I got quite a few not published, but that was also fine. I got to know that not everybody is going to like everything you write. You can give something to someone to read and they've got indigestion, and because of that, they're not going to like your book. It's nothing to do with the book, it's to do with where the reader is at that point. It takes a while to muster that belief. And for instance, I've got two terrible novels in a drawer here that not even Atmosphere could rescue, I don't think. I'm not going to send it to them. But I've got them there to prove that it's taken me a while to get to where I am today. And I finally found books I enjoy writing. That's the first thing. If you're enjoying writing it, write it. You can decide what you do with it at the end. Write badly if you like. You can fix bad writing. Just get your story down and then think about where you're going to go with it, because there's nothing to give you confidence like realizing that you have actually completed the book and that you can now submit it to some people, and that somebody, if you throw your net wide enough, is probably going to be interested, or they're going to say to you, pretty good, but perhaps we need to talk about something you could do to improve it. All of that is great. Never fear rejection. If somebody rejects your book, it's because they don't understand it and they don't understand you and they've got terrible taste. That's all I would have to say. So just tell yourself it's not my writing, it's them. They have terrible taste, and keep moving forward, because there's a reader for every book. There's someone who's going to love your book. It's finding that right person.
I love that perspective. We talk about that so many different spheres of life. Something might not be for everyone, but there will always be someone who it is for. So I love that application here. This next question is, what are the pros and cons of getting a literary agent to help you with the publication process and selecting a publisher?
Well, I don't want to diss literary agents. I like my literary agent, and we're still sort of friends. Here's the thing, though. It takes forever to find a literary agent. Literary agents are tossing out, um, you know, applications, query letters. I've even heard that some agencies use AI to scan the queries that come in and reject some that don't fit the particular criteria that they've put in there, the program that they want. If that's true, and it may well be these days, it means that your query letter may never be seen by a real person. The other thing that will happen is, if they've got it on their computer, you know how that goes with emails. After 50, it's on the next page, and that agent may never get back to it. So for many reasons, and they are many, it may be very difficult to find an agent, and it will certainly take you some time. I submitted to a lot of agents, and I think it took me, I didn't even get answers from half of them. And it was about 6 months when I began to feel that time was passing. When I did find my agent, it was through a friend who sent my manuscript to this agent. And there's a lot of that. There are people who are lucky enough to get an agent often find that agent through personal contact or something, which is not the case for most of us. This came out of the blue for me. And even she couldn't sell it. Now, if it takes 6 months or longer to find an agent, and the agent likes your book, the agent suggests a couple of changes you might make, you make changes, so that's a year. Then the agent takes the book out, tries to sell it, so that's 18 months. By this time, you could have had it published by Atmosphere and out in the world. And that was part of it for me. I was getting sort of fed up with not getting responses. I mean, it's understandable. I know how it goes. If you're getting 300 manuscripts a day, but there are people who will try and sell you meetings and pitch fests and all these kinds of things with agents, and the agents will probably be very nice and will ask for your manuscript. But those cost a lot of money, and there's definitely, I don't know anybody who's found an agent that way. So I would say it's not essential to have a literary agent. If you want to go and look for one, read their website really carefully, find out exactly which agent in that agency is looking for what kind of book. And if they're not asking for recipe books for spaghetti with mushrooms, and that's not the book you have, don't even bother submitting it, because they're looking for excuses to not read your books. At this point, they're just overwhelmed. And don't forget, they've got to try and sell it. Then the publisher has got to try and publish it, and the agent will keep 15% of whatever you make. So that's before any other royalties come off it. So they cost money, and more power to them. If they can sell your book, they deserve the money.
But definitely good factors to keep in mind for sure. This next question is, if you had to tell authors to prioritize one thing in their publisher, what would it be?
This is a tricky one, because there are two ways to look at this. There's the one before you get the publisher, and there's one after you sign with the publisher. So before you sign with the publisher, I think honesty is the most important thing. By the way, I forgot to say that I also contacted authors from each of the other publishers, the books that I'd bought, and I asked them for references. I said, how was it publishing? And I contacted some authors from Atmosphere and said, so what was it like publishing with Atmosphere? And they gave me great reviews. I mean, you would do that if you're buying a car, probably, you'd ask people to tell you what it was like. So I would say yes. Get references. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question because I went off at a tangent.
No worries. It was just about what is one thing you would tell authors
Oh,
to
yeah.
prioritize in their
So beforehand, honesty, and afterwards, connection, being able to talk to people there, to interact, to get answers to your emails. That's crucial for me. There's nothing worse than sending an email out into space, waiting for 2 weeks. And then somebody will say, oh, did you want something? It's never like that with Atmosphere. I've never had that happen. Always get an answer. And there's a team of people. There, different answers come from different people. And that's really wonderful because I know there's always someone who can help.
Absolutely. So I think that's all the questions that we have time for today. So I just want to say, if you have a question that wasn't answered, please do stick around for more panels later today and panels tomorrow as well. I'm also going to put some links in the chat just for everybody to check out again. Um, Also, you can check out Atmosphere Press's YouTube channel. We've got previous live sessions with publishing professionals. Gabby has featured on there before, so definitely check that out, and you might get some questions answered there as well. That being said, I just want to say thank you so much to Gabby Coatsworth for sharing your advice, your experiences in the industry with everyone today. And thank you to everyone in the audience for being here and for sharing your thoughtful questions as well. I think we were able to get a lot of really interesting responses and interesting perspectives from that Q&A. So that was wonderful to see. The next panel is going to be about the importance of working with a book coach prior to submitting your manuscript, as well as the opportunity to become a book coach yourself with the CEO of Author Accelerator, Jenny Nash. We'll be giving away more exclusives in her panel, and she's got a lot of great advice and insights that it's going to be great to tune in for. Again, to rejoin the webinar for Jenny's panel, you'll just click the same link you clicked to join the webinar for this panel. Her panel is going to begin shortly, so while you're in the digital waiting room, you can enjoy excerpts from the audiobook Marcella's Army by Daphne Birkmeyer. Again, I also want to say thank you to this panel's sponsor, Winning Writers. Submit your book to the North Street Book Prize now for the chance to win up to $10,000 in prize money, plus expert marketing services. And with that, I am super happy to announce this panel's giveaway winners. The winner of a free copy of Gabby's book, A Beginner's Guide to Starting Over, plus a personalized goodies bundle from Gabby herself, is Jake Griggs. The winner of a second free copy of Gabby's book, A Beginner's Guide to Starting Over, is Arnella Foz. And the winner of an Atmosphere Press merch bundle is Nancy Race. For those three winners, please look out for an email from Atmosphere this week about arranging the delivery of your prizes. In the meantime, we'll look forward to seeing all of you in the next panel.